Hey everybody, welcome back to the C2C podcast. This episode, we are going to be talking about the objections that you're receiving, whether it is running a group program, whether it's creating an online offer, you're getting feedback from your leads, potential clients are reaching out, and you're saying to yourself, I want to have a specific type of person sign up for my offers and my programs, and I'm just not getting that. And this comes from a conversation that I had today. I was speaking to a health pro, and we were talking about what the top objections are that he is getting inside of his business. And I always ask professionals this because when we look towards getting more signups, we want more clients, we want more sales, we want more leads. Naturally, we're saying to ourselves, well, I just have to keep finding new clients. I have to keep finding new leads because I want to work with more people. And oftentimes we don't really take a look at how many people are actually signing up through our process. Is that number okay? And are we getting the right people through our process? Because sometimes we can sign people up and then they never finish the program, or maybe they sign up with us and they're the wrong person. They actually take more time and energy and resources to fulfill on. Or we have someone go through our process and they follow everything to a T. They do a consultation, you send them the self-sign-up link, and then they don't end up following through with something, or they end up not being the right fit. And all of this goes down to the objections that you are receiving. Most health pros don't actually track what type of objections they're receiving to their programs. They're not really aware of why people aren't signing up. And so the solution is not just I need more leads. Yes, we can front end the funnel, and that is sort of going to make more signups. But the thing is, it's about getting the right people, serving them in the right opportunity. And chances are, if you are getting leads and you're getting interested people reaching out to you, these people are serviceable. The other question is, do you actually have something to service them with? Where do we start with this conversation? Let's start here. The objections. Most of the time, you're going to find objections to your programs or to your offers under these categories. The first is going to be credibility. I don't really know who this person is. They're maybe having a first conversation with you. Maybe it's the first couple of times they've actually seen you on your socials. And so they just don't really know enough about who you are, what your credentials are, what your process is, for them to be able to make a decision on your service. Cool. The second thing is, in fact, trust. Even if you can determine that you are a credible professional and practitioner to work with, they still have to trust you and like you as a person. Trust comes from the value that you deliver in your content, on your socials, in your masterclasses, in your free little trainings. Whenever they are watching something of yours or they've signed up for a specific masterclass, there has to be true value there to when they are applying something or when they use that in their current situation, they see results. They see some type of a change. They feel a little bit better. And that's what gives trust in you. You could be a credible person and still not be able to actually deliver any value to someone. And so you need both of those. You need trust, you need the credibility. And then the third thing, which typically ends up being the objection, is price. Price is an objection in a couple of different ways. Sometimes you attract people who genuinely can't afford your service. And they're like, hey, I'd love to work with you as a pro, but I just don't have the money right now. Normally, that comes from improper messaging. But outside of the messaging, sometimes people can say price, and price actually means something completely different. They do have the money, but they don't want to spend the money with you. Every one of these potential objections, whether it's the credibility, whether it's the trust, whether it's the price, all of these things can be addressed in your content, in your messaging, and in your lead flow. So that way, by the time they get in front of you, they are someone who's ready and at the right stage to work with you. This is about looking at your pipeline. It's not actually about looking at getting more leads, because you can take more leads through a terrible pipeline and still get the same amount of signups because you haven't really changed anything. So in having the conversation that I had earlier today with this health pro, he brought up that he wanted to work with more clients, and he also brought up that he didn't like the level of clients that he was working with. He was like, I'm getting people at the early stages in the journey. They're not really sure if they need my support yet. I also am a premium coach, and because of the premium price that I'm charging, people are very hesitant to spend that money that early in their journey. So then he's like, I want to work with someone who's further along down. And just like the majority of the professionals I work with inside of Coach to Coach are normally stage 3 and stage 4 pros, these guys have teams, they're making 25 to 30,000 a month, they've have established systems in place. It doesn't mean that because I want to work with those people that I say no to people who are in the before stages. There are different offers for their before stages. There are different processes that I can take them through. And so I can service earlier people. I just focus the majority of my messaging on the preferred and ideal client that I want to work with every single day. And I share that because when he shared with me his frustration where he's like, look, I just want to work with someone who's self-led, they're highly driven, they're all in on my coaching, they know me, they trust me, and when I tell them the solution, I want them to say yes right away. A lot of these are specific conditions that not every single person is going to check the box for. And here's my thought process behind this. If someone is going to reach out to you and they're finally going to be in the space where they say, I'm going to be brave enough to send the message, I'm going to have the conversation, I'm going to exhibit interest, at some level, you've proven credibility and you've proven trust. So for you to take them through the process all the way, and then all of a sudden you don't really have something to service them at their level, that's actually a you thing as a coach. That's not a them thing as a client. It's not, oh, I'm only going to work with some person at a certain level who's making this much money and willing to pay me X. I can tell you, even $1 million practitioners have $33 offers. They have $600 training, whether it's like a 3-day course or like a 5-week course. You do have to have offers that service people at all different stages, because there's no sense in turning away a lead. These people with either the right program or the right type of value that's given to them can go from someone who's not your ideal clientele to become your ideal clientele. And this has nothing to do with a price objection. It has nothing to do with credibility and trust. This has everything to do with the process that you are putting them through. So I always ask when I'm talking to these pros, what are your objections? Because some of you guys don't know what your objections are. And what I mean by that is you're having conversations and someone goes, that seems very expensive, and you're not reading into the objection. You just like, can't afford my services. But in reality, if you actually have a conversation and you keep unpacking it, they go, I don't really trust you, or I don't think you're credible, or I don't know enough, or you haven't built a problem yet. It's not price. It is never price. And think about it like this. If your system or your process or your coaching was the cure for cancer, someone would go into serious debt to be able to be cancer free because they know that you have the solution. So oftentimes, if someone can't quote unquote afford you, it's not because they don't have the money to spend on you. It's that they are not willing to invest that money. And here's the way that I see it. I always try to place myself in my client's shoes. If I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to come to a professional like me and I say, hey, look, I'm looking to work with a business coach. I want to trust the person. That's the first thing. I want to make sure that this person has my same values on a physical level, on a mental, emotional level, on a spiritual level. I want to make sure that when I am talking to that person, I know who that person is. Because guess what? I'm going to have a relationship with them. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 week thing. This is going to be a 6 or 7 month process. So I got to make sure that I really like this person. Because if I don't, if for some reason I can't trust them, then I'm going to have a hard time opening up to them. And that's going to prevent me from seeing my own results. So trust is always first. Now, once I trust someone, I can like someone as a person. I can trust them. But then the credibility is also equally as important. Have they delivered results to other people? What are their client testimonials? What are the transformations they've brought people through? And that's very important too, because I want to make sure that when this person is going to start to work with me, when I'm going to say, hey, I'd love to take you on as a professional, that they've helped someone just like me go through the process. Now, their client testimonials don't have to identically match mine. As an example, in business coaching, it's like you don't have to be like, oh, I've helped a chiropractor, so the other person has to be exactly a chiropractor with 313 clients. No, but it does have to be similar enough where I can say, hey, a lot of the challenges and the struggles that this client had, I was exhibiting as well, because that's going to prove to me that the process works. So if I have a good relationship, I know that I can open up to this person and I know that they have a process that works. That's 95% of the battle. The money at this point is not a can I afford them? Coaches who work with me don't go, can I afford to work with Coach Andrew? They say to themselves, how can I afford to work with Coach Andrew? And it's the same thing that I do with the coach that I hire or the person I'm working with on health. Like I'm working with a naturopath right now because I like to keep my energy high. I'm always adjusting my performance. I didn't say to myself, I wonder if I can afford her. I'm like, no, how can I make this work? And how can I go into this being 100% open to the process? And the way that you do that is you gather information. How do you work? How long is the process? What are the services or supplements going to be involved? Is there anything else that I'm going to have to buy outside of this? All of this helps give me enough information. So by the time I hop on the call with the professional, I have technically already made up my mind. It's really just a matter of a gut check in that moment to decide, am I going to work with this health pro or not? It may be some maybe nuanced questions which I can ask, and then I'm going to get all the information that I need. That's it. Your clients on their health are making decisions the exact same way. They got to like you, they got to trust you, you got to be credible. And then once they know that you've got that framework, the money is, how do I make this work? And this is where you having multiple options for them is going to be very important. You'll have monthly options. You'll have a paid in full option. If they can't do your flagship program, you'll have a downsell offer. If they can't do the downsell, maybe there's an introductory masterclass they can do. Maybe there's the first 5 weeks of the process that they can start. There's always got to be a place in which someone can go in and join your world. Now, that being said, you don't go and have conversations with people and you're telling them, hey, look, this is a $5,000 program. They come in, they can't even afford $100. This is where pre-qualifying and full transparency is very important. Like when people reach out to me for the C2C and they say, hey, look, I'm interested in the C2C program. There's a couple of different ways that the program can work. Everything from call frequency to whether or not my team is involved in like helping your back end, or it's just strategy coaching with me. So that affects the price and that affects basically a range of services that are there. So I always give people a range. My service is between X and X, and this is what it looks like, and it's a 6-month commitment. Does that make sense for you? Is there something in there that makes sense? I already pre-qualify ahead of time, so when I am having the conversation with the person, I'm not wasting their time. So by the time a person is sitting in front of me, they know, like, and trust me. They understand my credibility. They know enough about my system to know how I help them as a practitioner. They understand the range and they know roughly what's involved in the service. So the only thing left in the conversation is really, what are we going to implement first? Where do we start? What are their specific goals? And then this is how we get started and roll you out. Your programs and your services in health coaching should be the same. It should be very clear cut. And where objections will keep occurring over and over again in your system is when you are missing one of those 3 pieces or you are not fully explaining it. So a lot of times, if someone has fully gotten themselves in front of you, by getting themselves in front of you, I mean they've reached out in the DMs and you're having an active conversation, or they've filled out an application form and they booked a consultation and they're actually physically in front of you or virtually in front of you. At that point, all of the legwork should have already been done. Something emotionally brought them in and got them to a space where they're talking to you. Connecting to people emotionally is one of the easiest things that we do as professionals and health coaches because we know what it feels like to be in this state of struggle. Getting someone emotionally involved is easy. Now, this is where you have to get them logically involved. Does the process make sense? Is it simple? Is it going to save them time? Is it going to save them energy? What is going to be the cost benefit analysis? And then what is the process? Are you clear in explaining the process so they can see themselves in it? Because I can feel emotionally great about something, and then when I look at the process of, holy cow, I'm going to have to do 15 different things, and logically this doesn't make sense with the amount of time I have, or whoa, the investment is so left field and there's not really a structure I can fit this in, for me to then go, as much as I'm emotionally in, it doesn't logically make sense. And then this is where you're going to start to get objections. You have to serve both sides of their mind. You have to serve the emotional side and get them bought in on the journey and the transformation, while also serving the logical side, which is, here's the structure, here's how it works, here's what's involved, here's a guarantee. It's about relieving the fears, so by the time you do talk about the price, or by the time you do go through the process, there is no potential for an objection. This is really just a conversation, and I talk about it in C2C about being the prescriptive method. This is your ability to prescribe your offer just like a doctor's talking to a person at the office. When you're standing in front of a doctor, when you're sitting in front of a doctor, they're not questioning whether or not you can afford the treatment. They're just like, hey, you're here. And if you're here, it means you want support. Here's the process. Here's the medication. Here's what we're going to do. We write the prescription and we say, you're getting started today. And every single person who goes to a doctor who has the intention of getting better fills the prescription and they start the process. The same thing when it comes to going through your process of sales and your process of signing someone up. So when it comes to these objections, I always tell people, if you're getting the same objection over and over again, there's something in that process of the credibility, the trust, or the actual price point that you're not nailing down. There's something that's left, and this objection is appearing over and over again because you're not addressing this. And I can tell you, price is not a thing. It never is a thing. People can always afford you. We have people, and my wife is a really great example of this, who will join a $199 membership. And when they join, they go, oh, it's really tight for me right now. And then they join a $199 a month membership. They go to a $599 a month membership. Then they join a mastermind at $1,100 or $1,200 a month US. And then they stay for a 2 or 3 year period going through higher level containers because now they recognize value. You see, when you put value up front in your content, in your masterclasses, even inside of the consult, when people understand and recognize the value that they're putting in front of them, that's what they pay for. I'm not going to pay for something I don't think is valuable. I'm going to be hard pressed to open my wallet for something that I don't think is valuable. But once I'm bought in emotionally and logically, and I see that the value is there, the wallet becomes infinite. And by infinite, it's like we have credit cards, we can take out loans, we can be able to pull out from our savings. People find intuitive ways that are in alignment with them to pay for the program or the process. They have their partners help them out. They have family members give them money. People will be resourceful as hell, but there has to be a reason for them to be resourceful. So there's no such thing as a price objection. 9 times out of 10, you haven't built the level of trust, credibility, or security for them to justify that price. Now, let's say you know the objection and you're working on the funnel system and you're like, I am getting clients to sign up, but I'm still getting people in front of me who are not in the ideal client space that I want. Maybe I want to speak to someone who's at a higher level. Maybe I want to go premium. I want to charge high ticket, $1,500, $2,000 a month for a program. And all of a sudden, I'm not really attracting those people. I'm still attracting low level people. You're just speaking to the wrong part of their journey. And as an example of this, I'll give you the example of weight loss. There is what I call problem aware, situation aware, and solution aware. In every stage, there's a different level of question, of curiosity, of concern that people have. When people are at a problem aware stage, their only recognition in front of them is that there is this issue that they can't get rid of or out of their head. They keep looking at their rolls of fat and they're like, ugh, I'm overweight. Problem aware people are simply trying to get more information to understand why, what's going on, why am I gaining weight? They might try some small resources, free resources, but ultimately they don't have recognition that they need to get any help or support for this, let alone you being the support for that. Then you have a situation aware person. A situation aware person in the journey looks at their weight and goes, wow, this is really affecting me. And now the situation becomes, I can't play sports. I'm pre-diabetic. I have all of these symptoms. Now I'm recognizing it's something I actually need to address. So the situation becomes, how do I address this? This is where they're in the early stages of searching for a solution. They're looking, do I work with a professional? Do I go on a diet? Do I just do my training or exercising? They're trying to figure out what to do. And this is where your content can be really great at giving them a tip or providing value, but then explaining to them that's just the first part of the journey. Once they deal with this, they're going to have to deal with X, which is why the weight came up in the first place. Finally, you have someone who is solution aware. A solution aware person recognizes that they're overweight. They recognize that they need to do something about it, and they recognize that a coach or a mentor or a health professional is the person to help them through this process. They also have already done some of the first or secondary steps to get them into a space where they can work with you. They've read your content. They've applied some of your tools. They've actively listened to your YouTube channel. And now they're in a space where they're saying, okay, what program do I join? How does your process work? And how can we work together? Every single practitioner in Health Pro wants to work with a solution-aware person. Yes, of course. They're the people who are ready now. They're the people who are going to say yes today. They're the ones who have binge watched like 30 of your videos in a row and they feel like they already personally know you. Those are the easiest people to work with. But guess what? That messaging is very different than the problem-aware person. It's also very different than the solution-aware person. So as an example, if all you do is create content speaking to the problem, oh, you're overweight, oh, this is a problem, oh, you have diabetes, you attract people who are only obsessed with the problem. They're not actually obsessed with how to repair that problem. And this is where you'll get a lot of people who might be in a victim mindset, who might be in early stages trying to figure out, who might show up on your consultation saying, you know what, I kind of want to do this on my own, or I'm going to try this route first. Versus speaking to the solution-aware person who's like, hey, you've lost your first 10 pounds. You're already feeling great with your food. Your sleep is already incredible, but you're wondering, I've hit this plateau and I don't want to rebound the weight again. How do I lose the rest of the weight and learn how to keep it off long-term? That's a solution-aware person. So you see how in each of the steps, you have to change your messaging and the way you're talking about how you can help to reflect the stage of which that person is in. Most health pros don't do this. They keep sharing the same type of message over and over again, which is why you keep attracting those people. So you have to look at how you're speaking towards the message. And it's the same thing when it comes to the health coaches I work with. When we're working with people inside of C2C, most of these people already have an established clientele. They're making 15 to 25K a month. But the most important thing is they filled their one-on-one time. And now they're saying to themselves, what is next? Is what's next a group program? Is what's next an online program? Is what's next going to be taking myself out of the one-on-one and I install an assistant coach? So they're saying to themselves, hey, I filled up my one-on-one time. I'm making good money. Now I want to separate my business so it can run separately from me and my time. Notice how that is a different type of content than saying you're working really hard to fill your one-on-one spots. Your leads aren't calling you back. You're getting constant objections. You're worried about making sales. technically, we're talking about the same type of business, a person who wants to grow, a person who wants to continue to get more clients, who wants to continue to help more people, but we're talking about the same problem in a completely different way. One is focused on more time and taking back time and extending away, while the other person is simply focused on getting more leads and more signups to fill their time. So the messaging can be talking to the same person in a different stage of their journey. My recommendation is you need to have a mix of content because you're always trying to bring people to your ideal clientele. Finding the perfect client for you might take 6 months for your high ticket offer or for your premium service. And if you want to be signing up people every single day, as opposed to maybe 10 to 15 people a month, the only way to do that is to have a constant stream of clients into your pipeline that are going from a stage 1 problem aware to a stage 2 situation to a stage 3 solution. You are always creating content speaking to different stages, while the majority of your content, the majority of your call to actions focus to someone at a higher level. This is how you start actually transforming the amount of objections that you get, and you get to a space where you're eliminating them because you're always bringing people in. You're making sure that you're training them to become your ideal client. All of the people who are your perfect ideal client will sign up right away. And to the people who aren't your perfect ideal client, you will have alternating trainings. You will have different types of masterclasses. You will have other resources to prepare them to become the ideal client. Don't not serve them. That doesn't make any sense. And if you only have 1 or 2 offers and you're not getting the amount of clients and signups that you want, it's probably because you're turning away perfectly good clients with the justification of they're not the ideal client. If they reached out, they're interested in your service, and they like you, chances are they are your ideal client. They're just not at the ideal level that you want to be working with. And so, of course, in sharing this is when that health coach that was speaking with me was like, holy cow, there's a lot here that I can do. I can create new offers to people at different levels or lower levels than my ideal client, knowing that the offers will ascend them. I can also change my content to start speaking to more of a solution aware person because I'm still speaking to the person who's in that problem stage. And then on top of that, I can make sure when they go through my funnel system, I'm hitting them emotionally, I'm building the trust, I'm speaking to them logically by explaining to them the process in the system, I'm showing them the credibility, so then by the time they do end up in front of me, they know everything and they're ready. It's more of just a gut check call. So there's a lot that you can do. I personally believe that there is no such thing as an objection. And if you keep getting objections in your sales, in the DMs, or in the process of re-signing, it's a you thing. You're not explaining it right. You're not getting them involved or engaged. People will spend happily on things that they value. And there's a big piece that we talk about inside of the C2C program, which is the prescriptive method. This is the area I'm a big believer in no BS sales. And no BS to me means nothing but service. It's not about appearing to a consult with a slide deck. It's not about you have 2 options in front of you and you say, I'm going to have a conversation, and regardless of what this person says, I'm going to try to push them into this program. That's not authentic. It's not genuine. That doesn't really make any sense for them. It's doing you a disservice because they may not be actually ready for that container or that program. It's about being authentic. We're prescribing the solution, and that has to be no BS. You have to just serve them where they are at and help them get to where you want them to be and where they need to be ultimately. When you show up to your sales process that way, the amount of clients that you get from your existing lead flow changes significantly. There's no reason as to why 40 to 50% of your leads are not signing up. There's no reason as to why you're sending out 10 DM conversations. They're interested, but you only get 1 sign up. Those are poor sign up rates, and you can change those just by making these few adjustments. And if you're not sure where these adjustments are, whether it's, is it my content? Is it my messaging? Is it my funnel system? This is why working with a coach and a mentor is so important. Inside the C2C program, we actually break down all of it. I personally start with content because content affects everything. The messaging of your landing page, the messaging of your funnel systems, your nurture sequence. In my eyes, it's client converting content first, then it's no BS sales. After that, I focus on creating effortless systems where whether it's 50 clients or 500 clients, they're all being onboarded and processed the same way. So that way you just get to focus on the delivery. And when you have client converting content, the no BS and effortless, all back to back and seamless like that, it makes the client experience so great. You get a higher amount of referrals. You get a significantly higher level of retention where clients will stay on and continue to work with you long term. And you're going to be able to input multiple offers and multiple teammates into this ecosystem without it breaking. This actually takes you from being the practitioner and the health pro into the CEO, where your business can actually sustain itself without you. And that's the most important part. This is not just about getting more clients. It's about building a process and a system where you can get more clients without more of your time. So we do this inside of C2C, and right now we still have one more spot available for October. We had someone sign up, Keith, 2 days ago, which was incredible. And the interesting thing was, just like you guys are listening into the YouTube channel, he had watched a couple of videos, trust was built in a way, and I'm sure I'll have him on the podcast soon to explain what that process was, but built the trust, fully understood what the process and the systems were, watched enough videos to say to himself, hey, this is the person I want to work with or not want to work with. And it was that easy. Your process should be that simple for people to go through. Now, I will say this before I end this episode here, because I feel like I've touched on it really well. A large part of building trust is for someone getting to know who you are as a person. You can give value, but them still see you as a practitioner and not really see you as a human being. So I will tell you, and I will give you this permission slip before we end this episode. It's okay in your content to talk about your personal life. It's okay inside of your messaging to showcase like who you are as a human being, your likes, your dislikes, your spirituality, how you go through your relationships, how you navigate conversations. Because when someone is hiring you, they're not just hiring you for the transformation, they're hiring you for the experience of that transformation. Like if someone goes and works with us and all I am is a drill sergeant and it's hard and we have conflicting values, but the coach still gets results and their business grows, they're not going to refer to me. They're going to say, you know what? Yeah, he got me results, but the process I didn't really like. In order for someone to know if they're going to like the process, they have to know that they're going to like you. Liking you means you have to show more than just value or more than just your content. Like I've talked about in a couple episodes, but I'm 3 weeks in filming this episode here. I'm 3 weeks away from having my very first child. The way that I'm going to build my business is going to significantly change. The priorities and focuses inside of my business will change. The amount of time that I have available for things outside of my business will change. And the way that I'm going to navigate life is going to be so different, but it's going to be beautiful. And I know it's actually going to give me more power and more desire to deliver to you guys as a coach. Because I know that fatherhood and having this new child in my life is going to be something so special, and it's going to ignite a whole new area of my life that I've never thought before. I want to share these things with you guys. I want to be able to open up and provide a higher level of experience so you know that it's not just business. Because guess what? Life is not just business. And like, I have been the type of person in the past who was obsessed with learning, intaking information, more information. How do I do this? How do I build my business? I got to listen to another podcast, another video. I've got to absorb this. And then there were periods where I couldn't absorb anything and I couldn't really work on my business anymore. Like I was already spending so much time on it where I was like, what the hell do I do now? Like if I'm not working on my business, who am I? Guess what? There's a lot to life that exists outside of your business. It's why I'm a big believer that your business should be something that runs separately without you. My business is my passion, guys. I am in love with what I do. I don't do these videos because I don't love it, because who would talk for 40 minutes and absolutely not love what they're talking about? It's crazy. I love it 100%, but I also recognize that it's only one small part of who I am. Father is going to be a second part of who I am. I love playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's also a third part of whom I am, and a very big part of that. I'm a video game nerd at heart, and all of these things live inside of who Andrew is. It's what makes me show up as the coach I am. It's actually taught me so many different areas of coaching, and all of these other things have nothing to do with a business, but they actually affect the way that I run and do my business. So through this process, especially if you're struggling to really connect with your audience, this is your permission slip. In your content, showcase more of you. Showcase how you navigate your life. Showcase how you navigate your conversations. Showcase the communication with your family. Showcase your spirituality. Don't be afraid to open up in other areas, because when people start to resonate and connect and say, wow, this coach, like Andrew, he has the same values, we're on the same wavelength. This is where, when they have conversations with you, they're already bought in. Like, you don't need to sell someone on anything. I hate selling. Selling is dumb. I'm not a car salesman. I'm here to just provide a solution. And if we jive, cool. If we don't jive, like this over here, if you don't like looking at Warhammer stuff or randomly see whatever kind of poster I've got swapped out in these videos, if you're actually looking and paying attention to that stuff, then I'm not going to be for you. And that's cool, because I'm not for everyone. But through this process, understand that every objection that you are getting, every non-sale or every lost potential client, is stemming because you are not addressing something. You're not connecting emotionally. You're not addressing the logic part behind of what you're doing. You're not building the trust. You're not building the credibility. Correct that before you start going searching for more leads or running more ads, because you're just going to get more of the same result, which is the result that you don't want. That's all for this episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in to C2C, and we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.